Hello, everyone. It seems we have okay. It seems we have an issue with Facebook, a wonderful conglomerate that is stopping the broadcast by claiming there is a copyright infringement, which we own. And they're not giving us any direct recourse for this issue, which means we don't know what to do since we have no control over this issue at the moment. So I'm sorry about this, and I think we will have a conversation now. That is probably the best thing we can do for a few minutes. And once we find a solution with Facebook, which may not be today, we will stream this again. I think this is the best solution. So we will stay in touch with you. In the meantime, I want to thank the people who have been involved. I hope, first of all, that you have enjoyed what you've heard so far and what you have seen. Of course, this is frustrating for me to be seeing these problems, which are not fair to be true. And there's no recourse with Facebook, so we have to find a way. It's you know, they are considering that we are pirating this material, which of course we are not, since we produced it and we are the owners of the copyright. The album, however, does come out tomorrow, which I believe is as soon as midnight hits in your country, you will be able to listen to the audio on your favorite streaming service, or as a download if you purchase it as a download, which hopefully will give you some satisfaction in the next in a few hours. And secondly, next week on Wednesday and Thursday, we will be hosting the Beethoven Birthday Bash for Beethoven's 250th anniversary. We will be doing a live stream and some videos, which we will try to problem solve ahead of time to make sure that there is no problem. Again, today was our first ever live stream, and so perhaps we will have learned a few tricks of the trade. And by next week, we'll have ironed out some of those problems. And most importantly, I hope that we will have worked it out with Facebook to let us stream our own material, which is the most important thing to me. So I know there may be some echo right now and some reverb. I'm getting some messages and some feedback that there is echo. I don't have a direct solution. I hope you understand me enough. I would like to just say a few words about the project. And I would especially like to encourage all of you to visit a website we have designed in partnership with the Beethoven House, called www.happybirthdayLudwig.com, where you can write your own message to Ludwig van Beethoven on his birthday, a birthday wish. All these messages will be kept in the archives of the Beethoven House, and will be there for as long as the Beethoven House has archives. So this may be a long time. You can also use the hashtag Happy Birthday Ludwig. and share your birthday wishes on your social media pages, which will then be seen on the page of the Beethoven House as well in Germany. When I decided to find some music to record for Beethoven's birthday, um, for some reason the Diabelli Variations made sense, in part because um, um, in part because his Diabelli Variations are a compendium of pieces that he wrote at the height of his artistic and creative abilities. He he was in a place of absolute full mastery, and the 33 variations, some of which you heard today, uh, really reflect the totality of his musical and humanist philosophy, going from lighthearted to very, very deep expressions of his own self. And rather than picking an early sonata or a famous sonata, perhaps like the Moonlight Sonata um, or the Pathétique Sonata, I thought that a great homage would be to give a taste of the full Beethoven. And these Diabelli Variations really are an expression of Beethoven in his entirety, in his entire self, in his entire being. And one of the things that I think we must all remember on this 250th birthday moment is that we are here giving homage to Beethoven, giving thanks for all the extraordinary music that he managed to bring out of himself in a very, very short time, in a career that lasted no more than 40 years at best. He died too young for our taste at 56, at a time when he was still fully creative. But rather than regret what he could have written still, we are thankful for all the extraordinary music he put out for us, all of which, or most of which, is really extraordinary beyond any measure. And it's not about saying that Beethoven is the best composer that ever lived. Of course, nobody equals Bach or Mozart or Brahms in many ways. But Beethoven is Beethoven, and these works are so deeply representative of um, of an important moment in history, and also still speak to us so strongly. So when you listen to Beethoven in these next few days, and I hope many of you do spend a good amount of time listening to Beethoven and learning about Beethoven, whether it's through what we do or what you find elsewhere, as there is so much out there of interest, including at the Beethoven House, where you can explore their beautiful website, beethoven.de. Um, it's it's a tremendous task to keep Beethoven alive and to re let's see to make his music still relevant to our times. That is an important fact that we, as musicians, as artists, as people who organize these these records, these films, these streams, sometimes must keep in mind. It's our task to keep this alive. Beethoven is dead, but his music lives, and with his music and through his music, his extraordinary spirit of resilience, of courage, of perseverance, of love, of compassion, of humanity, and of hope. And perhaps in this year especially, we need hope, and we need resilience, and we need courage and strength to keep going, and especially in the arts, do what we love to do. So I I definitely hope that that you will spend some quality time with Beethoven in the next next few days. And I invite you to rejoin us on the 16th and the 17th as we broadcast some more. And hopefully, as I said before, in an easier situation. But now I'd like to see perhaps if some questions have popped up. So I'm looking at my phone to see if anyone has questions on Facebook. Okay. So. Okay. So why the Beethoven House? We recorded at the Beethoven House. It's a work that Beethoven composed while he was living in Vienna. As some of you might know already, Beethoven was born and raised in Bonn in Germany by the Rhine. And when he was about 20, he left Bonn, never to come back, and moved to Vienna and made Vienna his base for the next 35 years of his life. He wrote the Diabelli Variations in Vienna, indeed, on a request by Diabelli, who was a music publisher and a composer. Diabelli wanted to compose a work, a little waltz, which he did, and then wanted to ask 50 of the most famous composers in Austria at the time to write a variation on his waltz, and so he could publish a compendium of the best composers in Vienna, and of course make a good amount of money from selling this collection, this album, with names from the best names around, including, he was hoping, Beethoven and Czerny and Mozart's son and Schubert and the young Liszt, and a few others whose names have mostly been forgotten. Beethoven initially refused to write that variation, but he did receive Diabelli's waltz and had it on his desk for a few weeks. And eventually it came into him that he could use this waltz, this little variation, to turn it into something much more ambitious than Diabelli had proposed. And he made a counter offer to Diabelli to write a full set of variations if Diabelli would publish it separately from the rest of the composers and just make it a Beethoven set. Diabelli accepted. He accepted Beethoven's price, and then Beethoven took 4 years to finish it, which Diabelli wasn't so happy about. And in the end, Beethoven finally delivered 33 variations to create the longest work he had ever composed for solo piano. And he did this around the same time as he had been working on his Missa Solemnis, as well as the Ninth Symphony with the Ode to Joy. So you can see what he was working on at the same time as the Diabelli, which is not at all symphonic in that sense, and at the same time is just as powerful, at least just as deep as his Missa Solemnis and Symphony. And it really, between those three works, probably represent the best of Beethoven, without forgetting the late quartets, which are indubitably extremely important to Beethoven's late output. It's perhaps a strange idea to go record at the site of Beethoven's birth for one of his late works. But of course, like most of us, much of our makeup, spirit, and identity comes from where we grew up rather than where we end up living. And that was one of the reasons I wanted to go to Bonn rather than Vienna to record this and go back to the source of Beethoven's birth, especially as we were celebrating his birthday. The site also of the Beethoven House in Bonn is just a few blocks from the Rhine River, which is majestic and quite large at that point in its flow as it goes towards the Netherlands, where it reaches the sea. And Beethoven, who was a deep lover of nature, would frequently walk along the banks of the Rhine and into the woods or the hills of the mountains. They call them mountains, but they're big hills in outside of Bonn, along the Rhine. So that was really the reason why I wanted to record there. And then we had a wonderful welcome by the Beethoven House and its staff, who supported this project from the start and made it really easy to work on that site and with them. The other very, very important thing was the fact that the Diabelli Variations manuscript and sketches are in the archives of the Beethoven House, and the great honor that I had was to be able to consult them, the actual manuscript and sketches that Beethoven made of these in his own writing, in his own hand, which was a very moving experience for me. And when I made that recording, these manuscripts were in the storage room, which was just a few feet away from the stage. And maybe it's just me, but I felt the glow of that score, of that manuscript, just enveloping me as I worked to record this. The only thing that we haven't talked about, and which I would like to talk about now, is the reason why along with these 33 variations, the filmmaker Martin Mirabel chose to do 33 variations with his camera. And that's something that Martin will join me right now to talk about. Let me introduce to you the filmmaker now, Martin Mirabel, who is here, and we'll have a little conversation to talk about his concept for this film. Martin is French, and he works around the world primarily on music films, live broadcasts, music documentaries, and he also writes books about musicians and about poets, and is working on some fiction work as well, both in literary form as well as in film. So he's deeply engaged with music and with the arts and with the world of sound and music and poetry. Maybe Martin now will speak a few words about the concept of his film. Welcome to this live broadcast.
Thank you for welcoming me. First, I would like to apologize for my French and for my English, also because I'm French.
The French is good. The French is good.
Yeah, the French is not so bad, but the English is worse, of course. And I was very used to travel a lot before, and now it's more difficult. So I'm less used to speak in English. So sorry for that. About the concept of the movie, I knew George in Chicago in 2016 about another movie and another musician, and we spoke together. He came to me with this idea to record the Diabelli Variations from Beethoven, and I was very excited by this project. And of course, it was very interesting for me because there was the word variations, and I love variations. I think it's one of the main principle of art. And I quickly imagined that if Beethoven succeed to make variations, it could be interesting to make variations also with the pictures. So there were 33 variations, and we decided together with George to make 33 variations, 33 different shots of 33 different pictures. So that was the concept of this movie, and we tried to do our best to fulfill it.
Yeah, so I think what was radical in your idea was to use a single camera, without any safety net, so to speak, where every variation had to be recorded from the beginning to the end without any cuts. In most recordings, we record several takes. We make we cut the pieces up sometimes when we want to fix something or make something better. And just like in film, where you can afterwards in post-production do a lot of editing, in this case, Martin chose, with my approval, but it was a risk, to try to get one perfect shot that we could use in putting these variations together. Maybe you can explain why you thought this was interesting.
It's hard to speak after you because you speak so well English that it's complicated to speak better. But it's true that it was for me a challenge, and that was very interesting, of course, because it's easier to be able to cut and to fix some stuff, but it's okay if the variation lasts only 1 minute. It's rather okay, but if the variations last 10, it's more difficult. And there is few variations that we change the shots, we change the focus, so it's difficult. And if I had any problem, or if I failed in focus or stuff like that, we need to begin from the to start from the beginning. So it was a challenge, and it was one camera, and it's not because I'm lazy. It's just because it was a very big challenge, and very interesting to have also one camera means one point of view. And I think it was very interesting to focus on only one point of view, just to make to put the light only in one place, and not to distract with some different angles and stuff like that. So for me, that was all the other reasons to have one variations and one point of view.
Yeah, and then we were working in this auditorium, which was in a semicircle form, and it gave you different angles to. You could go up on the risers, go down to the stage, be behind the piano, in front of the piano, behind me, in front, from different angles, that perhaps, and even from you chose angles even from the floor.
It was not so easier because
no, but
the place was not perfect, but there is no place perfect, of course, but it was not so simple because of one main reason, is that it was a piano, and a piano can't move. So the piano needs to stay at the same place, also because of the mics, because we were also recording. So it was also a challenge. If it was only a movie, if it was only pictures, it would have been easier for me, of course. But it was not only a movie; it was also a record. So we need to manage with the sound, and the sound is, of course, even for me, most important than pictures. But it's another subject. And as the piano cannot move, it's only the camera who can move. So it was, and the place was not so big. And of course, you can move everywhere, but it's not so interesting everywhere. You have to keep on your mind the face of the pianist or the end of or the piano or the pianist, and you have to decide in every variations where you will put the camera, and it was the job for me, and the thing which helped me every time is to listen to the music. It's the music for me. It's all it's mainly the music who decides where will be the camera.
Yeah, and that actually is interesting because you didn't just choose to be cool and let's see if this angle works. So that's a cool angle. Look at that light. That's nice. You really chose your angles after studying the music.
Yeah,
You
of
studied the
course.
music a lot to
Of course.
understand the mood that you wanted, and you changed the lights too. The lighting is sometimes different.
Yeah, the lights, and the position of the camera, etc. The first thing is to listen to the music. The second thing is to see the place, to make scouting, and after you can decide approximately where you will put the camera. And for the light, it's another subject, but it's true that I would like to tell something also with the light, not only with the position of the camera. The light is one of the most important things when we make pictures, of course. So I decide to put light at the beginning and to change the light a bit after the middle of the variations, because something changed also in the music, and something changed also probably in the mind of Beethoven. I don't know what, but we can feel it maybe deeply if we are very
Attentive,
attentive. And of course, yes, it was very interesting also for that to change different settings because of the variations. It's the same principle. It's the same, but yeah, with the variations. And I love that, to have a team and to make variation with it. And we decided also, and it was interesting. I don't know if you spoke about this before, but the theme of Diabelli was not filmed in the hall. We filmed outside, and it's only Beethoven that we film inside. So it's only Beethoven, because it's the king next to Diabelli that he has the right to have his variation with the camera.
Right. Well, and it's true. The variation itself, what opens the piece, that little ditty that opens the piece, that is Diabelli's music. It's not Beethoven's music. We sometimes forget, but that is the work of the composer Anton Diabelli. And Beethoven begins with the first variation, ba-da-dum, ba-da-dum, ba-da. That's the march that Beethoven opens this set of variations with, and those are the first notes of Beethoven. And the opening of the film shows the Rhine River along where it goes through Bonn, and it shows the cityscape. It shows the beautiful statue of Beethoven that was set up in the 1840s with help from Liszt and Schumann. And then at the end of that waltz theme by Diabelli, we enter the Beethoven House auditorium, and that is when you see me at the piano for the first time. That is when Beethoven's music actually starts. And that was a very conscious choice on Martin's part, which also gives a sense of the setting and the place, and helps us imagine not only where Beethoven comes from, but from where he is heard into the world, from this little place, or from this quiet city on the banks of the Rhine. Beethoven rises and is now heard across the world, across every country in the world, and through over 2 centuries now. The question that we ask also ourselves in 2020, in the 21st century in general, is how do we renew old music? How do we make a new interpretation of Beethoven? This work, the Diabelli Variations, have been recorded before by some of the greatest masters, and in some cases they have been filmed, although not so many times. And so one of the things that we wanted to do was in a sense, do a co-interpretation of the Diabelli Variations. I am interpreting the music that is on the score, but Martin also is interpreting the music on the score. I'm using sound, and Martin is using the image, and in that sense, and it's not just a film capture of a concert or a recording session. This is why there was this thought process about interpreting the Diabelli Variations from the angle of the image, and the result is it creates a new type of work. The audio recording of the Diabelli Variations will sound differently if you're just listening than if you're watching, I think. And so that's very important. And the second thing that we haven't said very much, but a couple of the variations, and including the theme in the film, are not the same ones that we use in the audio recording. So they are literally two different versions, although there are some commonalities as well. We chose some of the tracks and some of the takes that I did specifically for the film because as a film, they made more sense. And we made different choices for the audio because the audio asked something else. If we are just listening, we hear it differently. And in the choosing process, in the post production work that I did with Sebastian Kino, the sound producer, the audio producer, we made those choices consciously. And when I worked with Martin, we made those choices consciously of what worked best with the image. So they're really two different works, related but different.
Yeah, absolutely. It's true that the pictures change the perception of the sound. There is a famous example is if you put if you film the two ends of the pianist and if you put the focus on the left hand, you will hear better what he's playing with his left hand. And if you make the contrary, it's the same. So it's true that the pictures have a big influence on the sound. So that's why for me it's a very big responsibility, and we must be very, very careful with what we do. And it's true that I won't say that it's a new interpretation because I'm not a pianist, and I have too much respect about musicians to say that. It's true, although that I'm a frustrated musician, so I try to do my best to make with the pictures what I'm not able to do with the music and with my two hands. But it's different. But it's true that when I approach a work of a musician, I always want to respect the text, the music, what is written. And I think there is some interpretations. There's a lot of interpretations are also inside the text, already inside the text. Mm-hmm. We have, of course, a little larger space of freedom, but for me there is it's hard to explain, but when I read music or when I listen to music, I see pictures, and for me there is no so much ways to how to film it, but it's hard to explain. It's mostly feelings.
Well, but that's something that brings us together, because you're very intuitive. You study, of course. Yeah, you got the intellect, but you're very intuitive, and I also study it very much. But I'm also very intuitive, and in my interpretation, there are things that I did in the recording that I didn't think I would do. In my practicing, there were some things, timing and choices, interpretive choices in the music that I had made decisions about. And then when I was inside the Beethoven House Auditorium, in front of your camera, in front of the mics, at that moment, on that Steinway, something else came to me. I'm not going to say it was Beethoven, but something came to me.
Of course, I can understand that.
And maybe that's the idea of what is inspiration. It's something that comes to you, that you inspire, that you bring onto yourself. and you can't do it any other way. I almost sometimes wanted to fight my own intuition, my own instinct. Thinking, well, this is not how I practiced it. This is not how I prepared. But I could not do it any other way. And in some cases, you had made decisions before the recording about camera placement and lights. And then at the last minute, you said, no, 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 I have to change this.
Absolutely. That's why we need to, that's one of the most important things, I think. It's, we need to prepare a lot to be able to change the D-Day. That's one of the, for me, one of the most important things. If I didn't prepare so much, it was impossible to change anything, because if it was chaos. You know? So yes, to have freedom, I must to have a lot of contraints, constraints. Yes, yeah. It's very, very important. So for me, it's very important. I don't know if it's the same in music, but it's true that on the moment, and that's the magical thing we happen with the live. And the shooting is the live of the cameraman, of the filmmakers, of course. The editing is not, but the shooting, it's like a concert live, because we are in live and we have to invent, to make stuff, and we see if what we imagine is okay with the reality. And it depends, but mostly of the time it's okay, of course, because of experience also and stuff like that. But it's true that we can change, and it's good to change if we feel at the last moment that we have to change. But it's strange to explain, because it's only us we can decide.
But some of the choices that you made were unexpected, I think, when you're filming a pianist, to only focus on my face.
Mm-hmm.
Normally, you would think if you're filming a pianist, you have to show the pianist's hands always.
No. That's no, absolutely not. It's the same with dance. The bad filmmakers, for me, when they film dance, they film feet. It's absolutely absurd. It's not the feet which is important in dance. It's the hands and the arms and the face. That's the expressions. The only thing that we can express something in the music is the face. It's not the hand. The hand expresses nothing. It's just the hand. We fuck with the piano, but there is no expression in the hand. There is beautiful hand, there is ugly hand, okay, but there is no expression in that. But in a face, there is every expression of the world, and the most beautiful, the most complex, the most interesting expression. And I think when if I have only one camera to film a pianist, I put the camera on the face and not on the hand. But definitely, and without any hesitation, and especially now, because there is one condition of this: the pianist must be good. With this, it's a bit complicated, but if the pianist is good and inside the music, it's the best thing to do. Because I made this experience very recently, because I had the chance to film the famous pianist Martha Argerich in Geneva recently. And we are making now the editing, and we have a camera on a face and a camera on a hand.
Yeah, 2 cameras.
No, not only 2. No,
but 10 cameras.
No, not so much, but
more than 1.
More than 1, definitely. And it's we make a big production of that with the producer and stuff like that, and they say, every time her face is just unbelievable, and if we have seen only one time hands, it's okay, it's always the same, but her expression is never the same. It's always different, and you can make an experience. Of course, the hands and it's slow, it's fast, okay, but it's always the same. The expression is never the same, never. And so for picture, it's more interesting to have something different every time. That's always the same.
Yeah.
But I know it's not so traditional to say that.
No, it's not. And you also made choices.
Well, I don't know.
You also made choices to film from the back, so you can barely see my hands and you don't see my expression. You just see a general view of my body and of the piano, the room.
The back is I chose not so much
No.
the back, but it for me I film from the back when the music is there is I don't know the word in English, but menace.
Oh, a menacing moment.
Menacing moment. So there is something, someone else of the pianist or something else of the pianist anyway, and we can feel that there is not only a pianist with his piano. There is something else or someone else. That's when I'm filming from the back.
And then you made a radical choice to film the wall. At one point, you're filming.
I don't film a wall. I film a reflect of the piano and the pianist on the wall. It's not totally the same. I'm not so crazy. So no, yeah. But the reflect was interesting because reflection, because it was maybe I don't know if I'm right, but the most virtuous piece of the variations.
Yeah.
And for me, it was virtuous to film a reflect, because it was like if there was two pianists, and so if there was, it was so fast, it was so hard to play that I decided to film not the thing, but the reflect of the thing, as there was twice.
What was your favorite shot? Could you say you had a favorite one that really gave you satisfaction as a filmmaker? Made you happy somehow? Or maybe what was the most challenging shot that worked, that you're happy that worked?
Oh, there was a lot. It was not so simple because we didn't have so much time, but I cannot complain, because nowadays we have never time. So so okay. The fuga was not so simple.
Yeah, but the fugue, which comes at the end, you haven't seen yet, but you will see.
Yeah,
we'll make sure you see it.
Stay in tune, because it was not so simple.
Yeah.
And my first idea was to film the piano with vertical, so to put the camera at the top of the piano, but it was very, very complicated, so we changed a bit our plan. But there is one other very problematic, because one of the most difficult thing with the picture is the light. It's the thing we take a lot of time, and I try once to switch off almost all the light except one only on the piano. But it was very complicated, because there was reflect, there was a rainbow. It was very, very complicated. But it was a challenge, and I think at the end it was not so bad. So we every time tried to find a solution, and it's very hard to say now which take I prefer, which shot I prefer, but I love the shot before the last. But I don't remember exactly the number, so it's hard to say. But I love this very long shot, and I put the camera on the face, and I go to the hand, and I make the focus, and how it's long. It was the same big challenge. Okay, stuff like that. But there is some nice shots.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, I think they're beautiful, and it elevates the performance in a completely different way we don't expect, and it brings us into the music, and especially since each shot is the same for the whole variation, for each variation, with the exception of the one where you move from my face to the fingers. That's a slow variation, and it lasts for several minutes, so you have time to go back and forth. But in most cases, you give us time to listen.
That's absolutely absolutely, because it's very important for me. to make the, for me, between picture and music, it's music first. So one of the most important thing for me is to that the people can be able to listen to the music and to understand the music. So if you change the picture every second or a lot of time, you don't listen so much. You are very disturbed by the change. You are looking at the shots, and it's not the same at all. So now the channel, because we choose to have one camera, it was to put the camera at the good place to permit to the people to listen to the music. And it's true that it's very important to take out the time, but it's not take the time. It's take the time of the music. It's not and the time of the music for me is not boring. So
Yeah.
it's not because we are taking our time that we are boring. It's just that we are faithful to the music, and for me, it's one of the most important things when I film some music.
But that's really rare to have a filmmaker who says let's not do too much with the film because the music is the most important thing. That takes a lot of maybe not for you, but it would seem a lot of self-restraint. But because you have a tool and you would feel like, oh, I have to use my tool and do this and do that. But you felt comfortable just setting your camera for one shot and staying there.
Yeah, I feel more comfortable because I know quite well the tool that I have. So I know that if the tool is it's well used, it's okay for the music. For me, I feel uncomfortable when I'm not faithful to the music.
Mm.
It's very simple. So for me, the picture is just a tool for the music. So it's just a way for the music. It's not the end. The picture is very important. If because it was not it was not a clip. There was a record also, so it's very
Right.
different.
Right.
If you make a clip, and if we had more time, we maybe we should have filmed a clip and to take one variation and to make different angles, put some cameras and make something. Why not? It's okay. It's very interesting also. But it was not the project at all because we wanted to make a record and a movie. And for that, the only solution is to respect the sound, and to respect the sound, you have to find a good place and to or to have a lot of camera, but it's different. It's just a very different exercise. If you have more than two or three cameras, you always have in your mind that you can change or you can find a solution or you will see at the editing, you will see in post production, and that's cheating in a way. So it depends on the project, but for this project, for me, it was cheating. So to have one camera, you have to choose to have a good choice of the place because you have only one camera and it's one shot. So it was more interesting and more challenging.
We have a question from Diane who wants to know if it's challenging to film and record in an empty hall. Was it challenging for you because there was no public, or was?
I know.
Was that...
no, it's easier to film in an empty hall because you are not scared to disturb the audience. You can move between the shots. You can be at the place of the audience. You can no, it's easier because you have more freedom. If there is an audience, it's very okay and very fine to make a live captation because you it's like cameras are the prolongation of the audience, so you have the constraints of the audience and stuff like that. But if there is no audience, it's totally different. It's not a live captation, it's not a concert, it's a shooting or recording, and it's not the same at all. And it's the two exercises are very interesting. I must admit that I prefer the shooting at live captations because I feel more comfortable with my freedom and my way to move. But the two exercises are also interesting but very different.
From my angle, recording it or performing in an empty hall. Well, first of all, it wasn't so empty because I had Martin with his camera and Sebastian with his microphones listening. So I did feel a presence. There was a presence. But beyond that, there's a sense of freedom to go very, very deeply in the music without the usual adrenaline that accompanies a live performance. Adrenaline is great, and it can really drive a performance. But and that's a unique experience, and we're finding out in this lockdown time when all the concerts are canceled. That both for the musicians and also for the audience, the live experience, being in the same room, is very, very important. We can't replace the live room with the screen, with a performance from home. Even though a performance from home is interesting, and we're finding out that, like, these live streams are interesting and have their own value, separate from the live performance in a concert hall. So nothing can replace the concert. But doing work of a recording in a film is also a different work, and it requires a different focus, and it allows you to try and try again, because every variation we recorded 5 times, 10 times. We did it several times from beginning to end, to be satisfied, both from my musical angle and from Martin's place. Sometimes the first take was not the best one. Martin wanted to make some changes with the lights, with the camera. I wanted to make some changes or improve some things. And in other cases, the first time was the best. So you never know when the right moment will happen. But the advantage in a recording is that you can really, you have the chance to do it several times, which doesn't mean we had that much time, because I remember the last hour was difficult. We had to leave the hall at 10 p.m. On the last day, and we really worked. We recorded until 10, I think, and then we had to pack up and close the piano and pick up our bags and pack up the cameras. We had enough time, but barely, and we felt for 3 days that we worked, we felt like we were constantly running after time. Right? It wasn't. We never had time. We worked. We
never have time.
We never have time. And for 3 days to make a 75-minute recording would seem like plenty of time, and yet it really was just enough, barely enough. And yet that pressure, also that constraint, also drove the whole project.
Absolutely.
And without any constraints, we may still be there. So it's good that we had a closing date. Do you have any maybe closing thoughts, and then we'll take it away until next week?
No, I just would like to say that it was very interesting for me, and I thank you to call me to be part of this adventure, of course, because it was very interesting and new and the continuity of what we did before, and it was very interesting for me also to know better this work of Beethoven. I knew quite well the music of Beethoven before, but not so much the variations, the Diabelli Variations. And it was very interesting for me to listen to a lot of time making the editing. And I just would like to thank you to follow us and to have listened to our conversation. Even it's a bit frustrating, I can imagine, to didn't see all the variations, but maybe tomorrow or next day. It's like Netflix. It's the next episode tomorrow, and I hope that you will be online also.
Yes. Well, thank you, Martin. And it's always a pleasure a great pleasure to work with Martin. We worked together on our previous project, the Bach 48, well-tempered clavier project that we recorded in Germany, and with our colleague Mariana Nante, who was a co-director with Martin on that documentary and that film of the complete music. And so we had already a working relationship, and Martin is one of those rare filmmakers that a musician can really feel like we are making chamber music almost. It feels like it seems to me like he is also a musician, and that together we are making a piece of music or an interpretation of music together, and the understanding that we have about the goal is very helpful to me. For example, going back to performing in an empty hall, but I felt like there was, at least there's some sort of tension, a positive tension, constructive tension between what I'm doing, what Martin is trying to do, and that we're really both wrestling with the music and trying to understand how to make this music come out and make it possible for us to then listen and really get the most out of it. Beethoven's music remains sometimes mysterious and difficult to grasp. That is perhaps one of the reasons why many people will say they prefer Mozart, because Mozart, you just feel good. Sometimes with Beethoven's music, you don't feel good. And that's an element for me of tension with Beethoven's music. Sometimes it's great, you feel the Ode to Joy, yes, it's great. The Fifth Symphony, the Moonlight Sonata, it's easy. In a way, it's easy, it's catchy. The Letter to Elise, it's catchy. But once you go deeper into Beethoven, like with these Diabelli Variations, or even with the Ninth Symphony, if you listen to the entire symphony, it's not always easy.
Absolutely.
Right? There's a lot of difficulty, and Beethoven asks a lot of the listener. Really, he requires the listener to work.
Of course.
More than Mozart. It's a different.
I'm not.
We're not going to have that debate, but
no, of course not.
But it's a completely different.
I cannot be agree with that, but it's true that it's different, of course. But
on the surface, yeah, Mozart is easier to absorb.
Yeah. Depends what Mozart.
That's true. That's true. Even Mozart has some moments where it's, but Beethoven is particularly difficult with that, and
especially Diabelli Variations.
Especially the Diabelli Variations. It's a little bit like a philosophy text. If you were reading Hegel, the truths in Hegel are very. Beethoven is easier than Hegel, but the truths in Hegel are very very important, and
especially in German.
Especially in German. Yeah. Luckily, Beethoven's music is universal, and we can all grasp, and it's available for everybody. So don't be afraid. But it does sometimes require a few listens, and I hope that these Diabelli Variations will be music that you listen to many times.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the more you listen to them, the more they give you.
Yeah, I'm a witness of this, because the first time I listened to the Diabelli Variations, okay, it was, for me, it was piano, but it was not so. It was not meaningless, but it was a bit abscon, mystery. It was not so simple, and now it's very almost clear, because I listened to it a lot of times. But the first listening is very interesting also.
Yeah, and when I first discovered in that sense of really going into the Diabelli Variations was when I performed in the play with Timeline Theater in Chicago in 2012, a few years ago, and for 2.5 months or 3 months, every day of the week, I was playing through these variations on stage with wonderful actors who were with me on that stage, and we were going through this piece every day. And at first, I thought, "Oh, how am I going to go through more than a week of doing the same music?" And the more I did it, the more I loved it. And that experience, that first experience of living through the Diabelli Variations in a play called the 33 Variations, actually brought so much love from me to the music that I knew I had to record them. at some point. And well, I'm happy that I was able to do that in 2020 for Beethoven's big 250th birthday. Well, thank you for our patient audience for watching this broadcast. Thank you to Martin for being here and taking time to be in the broadcast, and also to have made this wonderful film, which you saw a little bit of today, and we will make sure that you see the whole thing in the coming days. Please stay tuned. Like the International Beethoven Project page on Facebook. You can go to our website as well, internationalbeethovenproject.com, where you can read about our next events next week. And of course, if you wish to support the project, you are most welcome to. It is a United States not-for-profit, and we rely on donor support to function and to keep doing what we do, which is making art and sharing the work of artists. And thank you also to Matthew Trussler and the team at Orchid Classics and Naxos Records, who are releasing the audio album tomorrow, December 11th, worldwide. So please listen to it, please download it, please share. And of course, thank you to the entire team of the International Beethoven Project. And of note, Tonika Todorova tonight, who managed to to troubleshoot and get us going, even though Facebook then, thank you Facebook for shutting down the show, but here we are. We'll be talking to you after this, and making sure that our audience can see the fruits of our labor very, very soon. So that basically closes today's broadcast. And of course, thank you to the Beethoven House for making it possible for us to record at the site of Beethoven's birth, and to our dear Sebastian Kienel for recording this with his mics and his fantastic ear. And I hope that we will be able to have him on a broadcast at some point to talk to him about the sound production, which is a hidden element, but is such an important element. And it's not so easy to capture great sound. So once again, thank you so much for all being here tonight, and make sure to reconnect with us on December 16th, which is Beethoven's big birthday, and we will be online. And also, please wish Beethoven a happy birthday by using the hashtag Happy Birthday Ludwig and going to the website www.happybirthayludwig.com. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.